Happy Tuesday. What's up? How you guys doing? Today we have a guest who won the puzzle. River Foxwelch is from Steamboat Springs, Colorado. He is one of my good friends growing up. We spent a lot of time skiing together and stuff, and he is now a mathematics major at Cal Poly. So I guess it makes sense why he figured out the puzzle. He's a smart dude. We had a pretty awesome conversation. We talked about college and like the whole, basically throughout the whole conversation, we just talked about how sometimes it's worth it to go try and do things. For example, he went to junior college in California, and he was in Maryland and bounced around in majors. So if any of you are in high school or in college and are kind of like thinking about why am I doing this, maybe I should switch programs, but I don't know, then I think this podcast will be really helpful to you guys. So I hope you enjoy, and thanks again for listening. Welcome to Worlds. Bye.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, skier and riders.
I'm pretty good right now.
Welcome to Worlds.
Dope.
Quit it.
Ibra. So what's up? I see you have some tea there, bro.
Yeah, I just made some tea. It's pretty cold here today, so I'm all bundled up.
What's cold? What's cold for Cal Poly?
Yeah, actually, it's like not actually. Dude, I'm so soft now that I live out here. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, it's like, let me see what the temp is outside.
Probably like 60s.
It's 57 degrees outside, and I'm like sitting in here like complaining
It's
about
freezing. Well, it's weird because
No, but
I'll go to Colorado and it'll be like 15, but it's like it's okay because it's the vibe. You know what I mean? Like you're in Colorado, there's snow, but if it's just cold and like damp kind of, and it's just a different kind of cold.
yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's
Yeah.
just yeah, I'm just soft now that I live out here. Like I get cold too easily. But yeah, when I'm back home, like I'm like I don't feel cold, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe because I have like warmer clothes there too. I kind of just have like shorts out here.
Yeah, true. Shorts and flip-flops. So just for
Yeah,
context, where's home
that's
for
it.
you?
Steamboat Springs, Colorado, baby.
And we
What's up?
happen to know
Represent.
each other because we grew up together actually
Yeah,
and did a
went
whole
to
host of
went to high
activities.
school together. Used to ski together. Wait, yeah, you were on the free ski team, right? Or like
Yeah,
freestyle,
dude.
whatever team.
Shout out to
Winter Sports
Tony
Club.
Ladico and Andy McNay. Those guys are homies. Oh my
Yep,
gosh. When did you quit free skiing?
That would be after my concussion.
Oh,
I got a
dude, I
really
remember
bad
that.
concussion. Weren't you there? You
Yeah,
were
I was
in
there.
Vail.
Yeah, at
Yeah.
that park comp.
So I
Oh my gosh. Whoa, that just brought back like a
yeah.
lot of memories.
Yeah. Yeah. So I really did myself dirty that day. And yeah, got concussed as shit. And
I remember you went to the
uh
ski patrol and we took you down there.
yeah, I got a
Wow.
ride in the toboggan.
Oh, you lucky.
Yeah.
It's a
Um
privilege.
but yeah, that was uh wait, maybe it was the year after that cuz but yeah, basically I didn't really like train like I should have over the summer like at the water ramps, you know. And so at least like competition wise, I was just kind of like behind everybody else skill level. Um and so like obviously I love skiing still, but yeah, that summer I was just like focusing on lacrosse and so yeah, then I the next year and because yeah, I rang my bell pretty good, and they were like, "Yeah, if you get another concussion, it is not going to be good."
Did you
Um,
could you like was there a distinct before and after concussion like mental state? Like did it mess you up at all? Because I've definitely had
oh,
concussions
absolutely.
that totally
Oh,
like mess up your head.
okay. Yeah, that's so funny that we're talking about this. Okay, yeah. So, dude, after that first, so like growing up, I had like 20/20 vision, like great vision. Got that concussion. First off, when I was in the hospital, like I remember So I remember like falling and like hitting my head. And then I remember like a bit of the toboggan ride down. And then I remember like waking up in the hospital, right? And so I look up above me because there's this heart rate monitor, but it's flatlined. So I was like, first thing I said, I was like, am I dead? It's like, am I dead right now? And like my mom and dad were there. My mom starts like crying. She's like, no,
Oh
you're
my
not
God.
dead. Like blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, why is it flatlined? And it was because the little like pulse ox thing on your finger, it just fell off my finger.
Yeah.
But what's weird is I never actually woke up. Like I was conscious the entire time. Like I never once went to sleep. In fact, they don't let you go to sleep when you have a concussion, especially that soon after, because there's potential like hemorrhaging and I don't even know. But they don't let you go to sleep. So I was actually conscious the whole time. That's just when
You
my
never got
memory
knocked
kicks
out?
in. No, I mean maybe for a second, like right when it happened. I
Yeah.
don't know. Like
Do you
I
know
don't
what
remember.
happened even?
Yeah, I was just trying like I was literally just trying like a 540 on this like weird ass jump that they had. It wasn't like there was no like gap between the jump and the landing. It was just kind of like this like point kind of. I don't even know how to describe it like that. And yeah, I just tried 540 and like spun too early, caught an edge, smacked my head, and then yeah, so I remember like waking up in the hospital, but I was never actually asleep. Like that's just when my memory kicks in. And I had this piece of paper on my chest that had like 10 questions on it. That was like, where am I? What's the date? Like basically all these questions that I kept asking, and they had like tally marks next to them for the number of times I asked them because I couldn't remember the answer. So I just like, I remember like waking up and I have this sheet of paper on my chest and I look at it and there's all these questions, all these tally marks. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And they're like, oh, like you just keep asking us these like dumb questions. Like
And
you're not remembering the answer.
wow. That's crazy
Yeah.
because like I've had it where I've hit my head before, and that's what you ask someone. You say like, oh, like what's your name? And like where are you right now? What's the date? And a lot of the time you get asked those questions, you're not concussed, and they seem so simple. Like, really, dude, like I know my name, or like I know where I am. But like you were so concussed, you thought you were dead. Like that's insane.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's funny too, is like when the ski patrol first came, they were like, what's your name? What's your birthday? Where are you? And I like answered all the questions. I don't remember what coach was with us. I think it was Andy. And they were like, yeah, like he's good to go. Like he answered all the questions. And then like right when they're about to leave, I was like, wait, where am I? And they were like, oh, never mind. Like put him in the sled. Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, so since then, so I had like 20/20 vision before that. And like afterwards, I was literally out of school for like a couple months, like just living in a dark room. Like I couldn't do anything, couldn't read. And then like when I went back to school, I like started noticing that I like could not see like the whiteboard well and stuff, and ended up going to like the doctor, and my vision was like, I no longer had 20/20 vision. So I was like, shit. So that happened. And then my senior year of high school, I got another concussion. I was backcountry skiing with Powder Cats. And like, it was like a level like 3 tour. So like, it's like for advanced skiers. But like, you know, half the people that sign up for it are tourists, and they say they're level 3s and they're actually like, you know, level 2s or whatever. But like, so I'm like skiing with, hanging out with all the guides. And like, they, you know, could tell I was like a good skier. So they were like, oh, like we're going to point out like jumps and shit and like cliffs for you to go off, like if you want. I was like, hell yeah. Like I'm fucking down to send anything. And so they were like, oh, like at one point towards the end of the day, they're like, yo, like we got this like rock right in front of you can send off. I'm like, oh, like how big is it? And he's like, oh, like 20 feet, 25 feet. I'm like, all right, sweet. Like how hard should I send it? Like what's the landing? Because we had a radio and there's a guy like down below. And he's like, dude, you can send it. Like it's really like nice landing. I was like, man, I was like, if you're telling me to send it, like I'm gonna send it. So like I need to know like what
That's
this
a
landing
quote
looks
right
like.
there.
No, literally, I like no exaggeration. This is how the conversation went down. I'm like, if you tell me to send it, I'm gonna send it. Like, I need to know that this is like a solid landing. And he's like, dude, like you can send it as hard as you want. Like, you're gonna be fine. And I was like, all right, bet. So I dropped in and I sent the shit out of it, and I completely boosted past this huge ass landing zone that would have been fine. Took it like straight to flat.
Like a boss.
Double ejected, smacked my knee like into my face, like split open my chin. Yeah, total like tomahawk. And the dude, I like landed like right by the dude, and he's like, "Holy fuck!" Like, you sent it. And I was like,
Damn
dude,
right.
yeah. And he's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "No, like I'm definitely concussed. Like I can tell."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh shit." So like went and did like the baseline, all that, and they're like, "Yeah, you're concussed." And then I had glasses at this point. Started noticing I was having vision problems again. Went back to like the optometrist and like. Yeah, anyways, concussions have messed up my brain. I think. Haven't had anything confirmed by a doctor, but like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should see one.
Yeah,
I'll just take some weird supplements to like try and counteract it.
Really? Do they do anything?
I don't know. I actually feel like they do, but it might be just like a placebo. Like maybe just like the fact that I'm like taking a supplement and I'm like, oh, this is gonna help my brain work better. Like maybe it actually does.
Yeah.
But I take lion's mane extract, which is like it's this mushroom that's supposed to like help. It's literally like a lot of people who like have concussions take it because it's supposed to like reconnect neural pathways that could be damaged.
But did you so you had the like physical with the vision and stuff like that, but like I've had concussions before, and I felt like I wasn't myself. And it was really freaky because I felt like I was almost like watching a movie of like what I was doing on like a day-to-day basis. And you get like worried and all psyched out that you're not going to be able to return to that same thing. Did you ever have anything like that or no?
Yeah. No, I definitely have. I feel like I feel like I've definitely had like significant personality shifts like after each one. Whether they've been like good or bad, I don't know. But like, yeah, I definitely feel like I've just changed kind of, maybe not drastically, but like, yeah, I've definitely noticed like some kind of difference. And yeah, I do remember like, especially like in hindsight too, like the times like right after I had my concussion, like I remember, yeah, it almost just feels like you're not like, I think you kind of said it best. Like, you don't feel like you're yourself. You feel like you're like not in your own body. Like everything just kind of is like, I don't know. I just felt like disconnected. I know exactly what you mean. It's kind of hard to describe.
No, for sure. And I think disconnected is a good way to summarize it as well. Did you have any like other injuries that like affected you that much? Because like for me, I'd rather break both my legs at the same time than get a really bad concussion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I haven't actually. I maybe broke my nose once mountain biking when I was like younger, but other than that, I've had no serious injuries. But yeah, if I get another concussion, like I don't know, I could probably my first two have been so bad that like yeah, if I get a third one, like there's a decent chance I'm gonna like die or like go blind or something.
Yeah, that's freaky.
Yeah, so now I take it a little mellower.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because yeah, I used to take an approach to skiing that was like, oh, I need to progress and I need to do these new things to like push myself. And I've kind of come to the realization that like I'm not going to be a pro skier and that I'm okay just chilling. And like my thing is I do one backflip a year and that's it, just to like keep that going. Like I did my one backflip this year and I was psyched. But yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of funny how you get a little older, and especially after like leaving Steamboat, like I go back and ski and I'm just kind of like, you know what, I'm okay. Just like hanging out, doing some like threes on some jumps and just chilling.
Yeah, same. That's like all I do now. If there's a big powder day, I'll go for a front flip. But I can't backflip. Backflips are too scary, which is so funny. Everyone's like usually more comfortable backflipping than
Yeah, I was
front
gonna
flipping.
say.
But like front flips for me, like even on tramp, dude, like it took me so long to learn how to backflip, like at the ramps. Like, so yeah, I'll just, if I'm really feeling good, I'll front flip. But like, yeah, I mean, I haven't skied now in like a year, just about.
Really?
Yeah, I don't get home often, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
So you see, when did you? So we went to high school together, and you developed. So obviously you major in aerospace engineering. When did that passion kind of come out? And especially in Steamboat, like there's a lot of engineers, but not a lot of like aerospace people. So I'm just kind of curious, at what age did that really start to come out? Because it's known as like one of the more ambitious majors that you can choose.
yeah.
So
Well, so it's
what made you motivated to do that?
So what's funny is now I'm not an aerospace engineer. I'm just a mathematics major, which is arguably worse, I would say. Engineers do fake math.
What do you mean by fake math?
Like there's so much rounding and like approximations that are done, and like I mean, yeah, it's kind of like a joke more between the math majors, just to like shit on other people that are also in STEM. But like there's just a lot of like the running joke is like sine of X is just equal to X, because like a lot of times you just approximate stuff in like physics and engineering because it's easier.
It's hilarious because you'd think that you wouldn't do that, because like when you're building things, you'd think that you'd need to be exact.
Yeah.
They can explode in a ball of fire.
Yeah.
Like
you need to, yeah, no, there's definitely a level of precision. I mean, the approximations that are done are negligible for like real life application. So, but yeah, like when I was in high school and I was like applying to college, I was like, I was super into math and science, and I was like, what I really wanted to do was like astrophysics. I thought that was so cool. Like I think, and I still think it's so cool, like just learning about the universe and like the way things work, and like, because there's just so much stuff that we don't know. And so that was kind of my motivation for aerospace engineering, was because a lot of schools don't have astrophysics. It's usually like a graduate program or like a minor if you're lucky. But so a lot of schools don't have that as like an actual major, at least not any schools I could get into. So then I was like, oh, I'll do aerospace engineering, like basically the same thing, which it's just totally not. And that's kind of that's what resulted in my shift to mathematics, was like that. My freshman year, I went to University of Maryland, and that's where I was doing aerospace engineering. And my first semester there, I was like, registering for classes, and they were like, oh, you're an engineer, like you're taking XYZ, and you can pick from like this list of like gen eds. And I was like, okay, that's cool. But like, I want to take psychology because like, I think it's interesting. And like, we went to a pretty small high school. So like, we didn't have like a psychology class or anything. And they were like, oh, you want to take psychology? Like, tough shit. Like, you're an engineer. You're taking this. So I was like, and at the time I thought aerospace engineering was what I wanted to do, but I wasn't like dead set on that because there's so many fields that I'm interested in academically that I just hadn't had exposure to that I was looking for. So that first semester, I took my classes. I ended up taking this really cool entrepreneurial business class. And that kind of sparked in my mind, because I've always been entrepreneurial. My dad is an entrepreneur. And I've always just been interested in business. So I was like, oh, maybe I should be like a business major. Maybe that's what I want to do. So I switched to that for my second semester, and I was like a finance major, and I took like a bunch of business classes. And then when I was doing that, I was like, okay, this sucks because I miss like science. So
can sorry to interrupt, but I just want to go back a little bit. So we both took Mr. Nielsen's class, right?
Oh yeah.
And Mr. Nielsen, for people who don't know, I actually had him on the podcast. That'll come out in a bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, dude.
Oh, sick.
But
what episode? Can you
Uh,
say?
what episode is it going to be?
Yeah,
I have no idea.
you don't know yet?
No, because I have like 12 now in my backlog of things I can post still.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I have a lot. I might end up posting more just because I just want to get them out. But so was he, and he is for people who don't know, he's a plutonium engineer and was also our physics professor in high school for AP Physics. Was he like a big reason why you got into aerospace and like science in general? And did you really know what aerospace entailed when you were going into it?
Um, I definitely did not know the extent of what aerospace engineering entailed until I was in it. I kind of just like read the label and I was like, oh, aero, like flying things in space, engineering. I was like, cool, those are all things I like. And in reality, a lot of it is, it's actually, most of it is just, it's like airplane development, rocket development, or like missile development for like the military.
Yeah.
Um,
Isn't making things like spaceships aeronautical engineering?
yeah, it's the aerospace and aeronautical are like the same, I think.
Okay.
Oh, kind of funny. I'm wearing my NASA hoodie. Um, but yeah, Mr. Nielsen was at like absolutely a huge influence in that. Because I took AP Physics 1 my junior year, and I mean, he is probably one of the most like influential teachers I think I have had. Um, and he absolutely just sparked that like curiosity and just like wonderment of, just everything in the universe. And so yeah, he absolutely played a large role in that. And then, I took AP Physics 2, and just kind of was getting more into that. And it's, at the time it was kind of like I think a lot of people took it because it was like a really easy class, actually. Because he was so
Ironically.
nice. Yeah, ironically, like one of the most difficult classes was super easy because he was like so nice and kind of just lenient with his grading. But like, I feel like I learned so much, uh, like just more about like life and like being passionate about like what you're studying and like fascinated in. Um, but yeah, so yeah, when I was applying out of high school, he was definitely a huge influence in my major decision.
So you went
Um,
to he was a big influence in that major decision. And like we both said, he kind of has like a lax approach to class, and really is teaching more about life than the material. But I assume when you went to college, it was probably not like that.
no,
Yeah.
yeah.
So was it really like and you talked about how you went to business and you decided to get out of aerospace engineering. Was that because, so you went to Maryland, which is on the East Coast, which is already different, but you went to a major that, from what you've said, it sounds like they have a very set path that, okay, you're going to do this and then everyone's going to end up with this degree and then you're going to go end up doing this. And that was like too static for you, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that was uh it felt like they were trying to fit me in a box, which is kind of the nature of, going to college. Like you go and decide what field you want to pursue and study. Um but when I'm 18 years old, I'm just out of high school, like, and especially for us, we went to such a small high school. We didn't have a ton of exposure to like a lot of variation and stuff. So like
And
I said,
also
like,
the culture too, like in
and
Steamboat,
oh yeah, the culture too.
everyone's
Like,
white, everyone is a skier,
oh
everyone
yeah,
takes the same classes, and it's all like, especially like, so I moved out to like LA, Orange County, and that really showed me like the difference of people and the variety of people. And uh I mean, I can imagine, especially like I said, going to the East Coast from Steamboat probably was just a crazy change.
oh dude, it was a huge culture shock, and even more so because I actually ended up. So University of Maryland has, at the time, they had the third largest Jewish student population. And I actually ended up in a dorm of all Jewish kids. And they were just all in the same dorm because it was next to like this food hall that had like special food for them. Um, but I was literally like the only non-Jewish person in this dorm. And like they were all like, I mean, some of them were like super Orthodox, like Jewish, but a lot of them were just kind of like, I guess like more modernized Jewish. I don't know how to like describe it other than that, but like that was definitely kind of a culture shock itself, because like I was totally exposed to like a new world and new like type of people, you know, like I don't know anybody from Steamboat that is Jewish, like, and like even if they are, it's probably just like I don't know if we even have like
A temple.
a temple. And so yeah, that was definitely like a culture shock a little bit. Yeah, I guess I kind of want to dive into this little bit of a story actually, because I
Okay,
feel like
go for it.
especially if there's anybody listening that like went, that is, you know, in high school or they're like in college and they're like not sure what they're doing. Like I've seriously been through the ringer in college. Like, so I went to University of Maryland, aerospace engineering first semester, sucked. Decided I wanted to do finance, that sucked. And then I was like, at that point, I was like, okay, I don't really like Maryland. Like, I don't have any academic flexibility. Like, even when I was a business major, like, I still had to take XYZ. And like, that is the nature of going to college. Like, you choose something that you're going to pursue. But I had such a variety of interests at the time that I just like really wanted to take like whatever and just figure out what I wanted to do. And I couldn't do that. So I ended up leaving Maryland. You could say I transferred. Really, I dropped out. So I dropped out of Maryland because I learned that here in California, they have junior colleges, city colleges, where you go for 2 years and you can get an associate's degree. So I was like, okay, well, so I learned that, but not only that, they have a program called TAG, called Transfer Admission Guarantee. So if you go to a city college and you take like the specific courses that are lined out for your TAG contract, and you get a certain GPA, you're actually guaranteed admission to certain University of California schools. So for like UC Santa Barbara, it was like all of the courses that you had to take were pretty much the same. But like for UC Santa Barbara, you had to get like a 3.4 GPA. And if you did that and you had all the right coursework, like you were guaranteed admission. So I learned about that from a friend at Maryland who was from California. And so I was like, okay, you know what, I'm going to do that. So I left Maryland, went back home for the summer, then moved out to Santa Barbara, where I went to Santa Barbara City College for 2 years. And that
And
first,
how is that?
yeah.
Like, what were the biggest differences between obviously Maryland versus California, but also like the schooling, and what was your major at this school?
So when I first went to Santa Barbara, I hadn't declared anything. So my first semester there, I was just like, I'm going to take classes that I'm interested in. I'm going to figure out like what the hell I want to do. So I took like art history, sociology. I don't even know what else. Culture wise, it was like very different. Again, like a culture shock. Like in Maryland, everybody was like just very East Coast. And like a lot of the people I interacted with were like very Jewish, which is like nothing wrong with that. But like it's just very different than like the culture that I'd grown up with, you know, like especially Steamboat. It's such a bubble. The people there and just the way that they interacted and their personalities were like just very, very different. And yeah, like literally everybody I knew at Maryland was either like Jewish or just like white American, whatever. And then when I came out to California, like there is such a diverse group of people in California. Like everybody is from all kinds of different ethnicities and backgrounds. And like, it's like, I feel like California is very much a melting pot, even though like the entire US is. But like, even like, I feel like in Maryland, there was like kind of two types of people I interacted with. And then I came to California and it was just like a rainbow of different people and ethnicities and backgrounds. And so it was really cool. And so, yeah, definitely another like culture shock, but I feel like personality wise, like I kind of fit in more in California than I do Maryland. I'm sure you can kind of relate.
Yeah, for sure.
There's,
I actually I really like I went there. So my girlfriend's from Virginia Beach, and we went to Washington D.C. last fall, and I've been there a couple times, and I actually really like D.C. I don't know a lot of the people in D.C., but I just like how like clean the city is, because
yeah,
LA is cool because it has the diversity and all that stuff. But as far as like beauty, like LA is not the most beautiful place.
yeah,
Like I live in Orange County, so I get to go to Newport and Laguna, which are beautiful places, but there's a lot of pollution here,
yeah,
and we're very spoiled too because we come from Steamboat. But
yeah. I mean, like one of the most beautiful places on earth here.
yeah,
Like,
seriously.
yeah, DC, University of Maryland was actually really close to DC. Super like 20-minute train ride. So I went there quite a few times. And yeah, DC is awesome. Like you said, it's so clean actually. Like, because I've been to New York, like I've been to London, I've been to Paris, like I've been to a bunch of different cities, and like DC is by far the cleanest city I've ever been to.
Yeah. But so you were like undeclared and just took classes at the city college. And what was so you went to city college in preparation, and did you know you wanted to go to Cal Poly right after?
No, so at the time, so I did my research and I was like, okay, because there's tons of like junior colleges out here in California. And some of them are kind of like feeder schools to the nearby, like UC. So, for example, there's a junior college outside of Berkeley called De Anza, I believe. And like, I think it's like 50% of the students that apply to go to Berkeley from there, like end up getting in, even though Berkeley isn't a school that has the transfer admission guarantee. But basically I figured out, because I wasn't sure exactly where I wanted to go after Santa Barbara. Or after just a junior college in general, because this is before I had even picked Santa Barbara. So I just did my research and looked at which junior college, city college, had the best overall transfer rates to any UC or CSU. And that was Santa Barbara City College. And it's actually the #1 junior college in the United States. Shout out SBCC, what's up? So yeah, so I chose that, and yeah, that first semester there, I kind of just took like whatever to try and figure out what I wanted to do, and then I was like, I really miss science and math, and so that's when I decided, even though I'm still not sure like what I'm gonna do with it. The beauty of being a math major is there's like so many opportunities. Like if I want to go do engineering, like I can go be an engineer. If I want to do like banking and like big finance, I can go do that. If I want to do like data analytics, like I can do that. So that's kind of how I chose math. Is I was like, okay, A, I love math. B, I don't know what I want to do, and it allows me a lot of flexibility long term career wise to like what options I have available. Because like if I did aerospace engineering and I get my degree and then I'm like, oh, you know what, I want to go into finance, like that's going to be pretty difficult. But if when I get my degree in math, if I'm like, oh, now I want to be an engineer, aerospace engineer, then I can go to grad school and get a degree in aerospace engineering. I probably wouldn't even need one actually to like work at like SpaceX or anything, assuming they would hire me. But like I should be qualified just with what I have from math. So that's kind of what is nice about it, is it's kind of like the base of like a lot of other majors that I was interested in. And I was like, okay, I'll just do math because then I can hopefully have the opportunity to do whatever with it.
And did you feel, so you ultimately chose Santa Barbara City College, and then did you feel like at home when you were there, like you were in the right place finally?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So the school itself is actually beautiful. It's actually the University of California, Santa Barbara's old campus. And it's like located in downtown Santa Barbara on top of this hill that's like overlooking the ocean. Like it's such a beautiful campus actually. And it was really nice, like super small classes. Like I think my largest class was like 100 people, but like I knew literally every professor knew me, like that, at least that I took. So it was really nice to have that like small class size and be able to develop those like interpersonal relations with them, especially because at, you know, your typical 4-year university, those entry level, you know, 100, 200 level classes that you're taking, you're in a lecture with like 200 plus kids, you know what I mean? Like some of the lectures I was in at Maryland were massive, and like my professor had no clue who I was and he wouldn't care either. And like that was the other great thing about Santa Barbara is like any of these professors, like even now I could hit them up and be like, hey, like, you know, ask them for advice or whatever, and I'm absolutely certain like they'd remember who I am and like be willing to like talk to me. So I think that was kind of the greatest benefit of doing that. And it was like, I guess the moral of this whole story for anyone that's listening and is like, oh, like, I don't know what I want to do, or, you know, you're not certain about going to college. Like I could not let me say this right. I would strongly urge you to go to like a junior college or a city college. I know Colorado has some. I don't know if they function in the same way as the schools out here at the junior colleges in California do, but like it is a far cheaper alternative to just going to like a 4-year school, and you get the exact same education in like a smaller class size. So like all of my credits, like I took all the same like entry level math classes, art history, sociology, computer science, whatever. It was all like literally the exact same class. Even some of my professors taught at UCSB also. So like I was literally getting the exact same education for a fraction of the cost and in a way smaller class size. And that, especially when there's no like commitment, because a lot of like 4 years, you've got to like, you know, declare your major and you're going in as that major. Like some people go in undecided. But yeah, like a lot of kids just apply as what they are, as what they think they want to do. But yeah, if you have any like hesitation or like uncertainty, I would absolutely recommend like going to a junior college and just taking that time to figure it out, and just take like literally just whatever interests you. And it's like you're going to spend half or a third of the money that you would doing the same thing at like University of Colorado or whatever 4-year that you want to go to. And then, you know, once you get your associate's degree, which is what I did, then it's pretty easy to transfer. Like, you know, I just sent out a bunch of applications, got into Cal Poly, which I didn't even get into out of high school. And so like now I'm at the school that I ultimately wanted to go to. And like, I saved so much money along the way. And like, now I'm also certain in like what I'm doing. So it's been a roundabout journey for sure. Like Colorado, Maryland, Colorado, Santa Barbara, and now San Luis Obispo. So like I've definitely bounced around for school. But yeah, I'm really happy where I'm at. And the journey, I learned a lot along the journey, even though it sucked sometimes.
Yeah, I think I it's funny. So before talking to you, I can't really like Google you or do things like that, which is like part of the beauty of being able to talk to this like homies like you, because it like keeps me on my toes, right? Because it's like it's almost easier when you can research someone, because you kind of have like a normal thing that you like go about talking with that person. But
Yeah.
with you, I knew you'd bounced around over the past couple of years, and I just thought that like, yeah, you solved the puzzle and that's cool. But I think that your message in that, like, it's okay to not know what you're doing and like, it's okay to bounce around and stuff like that's super important. Cause I honestly, I don't think I've met anyone, seriously, like maybe a handful of people or a couple people that are in college and know exactly what they want. And that's why they're here. Like
Yeah.
most people are, you get peer pressured by the system, I guess, into making a decision which ends up costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially. And then like
Yeah.
you kind of get taken advantage of and you get out. And I mean, I'm getting out in a year and I don't really know what I'm doing. So it's just pretty, it's pretty intense. So I think that your message of like, hey, it's okay to go to like a junior college or something like that, even though I don't know why there's a negative stigma around like a junior college or like a
Yeah. I
community
don't know.
college.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Uh, I think it's just because of the status quo and like just kind of how we've been socialized to be like, okay, you graduate high school and then you go to college and then you get a job and then you get married and you have kids. Like I think everybody in their mind has this like set way that they're supposed to go about things, but like, or you think maybe some people are like, oh, like if I go to if I go to University of Colorado right out of high school, or if I go to some junior college in Colorado and then go to University of Colorado, like an employer is going to see that I started at this junior college and think I'm like less capable or something. Like the fact of the matter is people literally do not care. Like I was talking like literally I guess it was a couple hours ago now before I got on the phone with you. I was talking to this guy that I was networked to, who's a co-founder of like a really big tech company right now. And not going to name drop just because I don't know if he wants that out there, but he was just kind of helping me like try and figure out an internship and like what I can do work wise. And he was like, yeah, like literally nobody cares about what you're doing outside. Like once you're out of college for a year, nobody's going to ask you what your major is. Nobody's going to care what your GPA was. Like nobody cares about any of that stuff. It just matters where you are and like what you're doing. And so whatever route you got to take to get there,
Yeah, I think as far as STEM, because so for film school, for example, they really don't give a shit about your GPA. Or even that you go to film school. Like I've worked with people, like I worked with those people last week, and the guy named Dave and Matt, they hired me and they weren't like, oh, what's your GPA? They're like, why are you like, what are you doing in film school? Like, what's the purpose? But that's not because I'm not like bragging or anything. It's just because they don't really understand. And I don't, and honestly, sometimes I don't either, but that's a whole nother thing of worms. But I just was going to mention, it's really interesting. Yeah. As a STEM major, that like companies in STEM wouldn't give a shit what your GPA is. And that
I mean, maybe they do when you're first, like, obviously your GPA matters. I'm not saying you should like fail all your classes, like, but once you're like, yeah, when you're getting that first job out of college, especially for STEM, yeah, they're probably going to look at your GPA pretty intensely because it's a reflection of not only your work ethic, but your comprehension of subject areas. But like once you're working for a little bit, like nobody cares about that stuff. But yeah, I don't really know why there's a stigma around it. I mean, even when I was like leaving Maryland to go to Santa Barbara, like I was kind of reserved about like telling people about it because I was almost like ashamed in a sense. But like, yeah, now in hindsight, like it's the greatest decision I ever made. Like I wish I had known about it and done it right out of high school. And yeah, kind of circling back, what I like to think of a lot is a quote that Mr. Nielsen used to share with us a lot. And it's, life isn't about figuring out what you want to do. It's about figuring out what you don't want to do. So like, if you don't know what you want to do, like that's fine. Just figure out you can start by figuring out what you don't want to do. You just need to throw yourself into that situation and figure out if you like it or not. Like if something interests you, pursue it. If you don't like it, like, okay, go do something else. And yeah, I think that's kind of the beauty of like the junior college compared to a normal 4 year where like you're immediately kind of thrust into this box where like, oh, you're an aerospace engineer, you're taking XYZ. Whereas at the junior college, I was like, I remember I met with a counselor. I was like, okay, what do I need to take? And they're like, what do you mean? Like, you could take whatever you want. And I was like, sweet. So I just like signed up. I was like, cool. I was like, I'm going to take this class on deviance and like criminology and like why people commit crimes. Like, I think that sounds cool. I'm going to take this art history class on like the Renaissance era because I think that sounds interesting. Like, so I just took a bunch of stuff and I was like, okay, I mean, they're interesting, but I don't like them as much as I like other things. And so, yeah, eventually, you know, you figure out enough things that you don't want to do that you start getting an idea of what you do want to do. That's kind of my path.
Yeah, it's
my logic.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. And I just earlier a couple of minutes you said that you found that you're on the right path and you really like what you're doing. And I just think that's how did you arrive at that point? You know what I mean? Because you say you like math and science and stuff like that, but especially are you 21 or 22?
I'm 21.
Okay. So you're
20.
You're 21 and you were like, oh, I know what I'm doing. And sure, it opens
Well,
a lot of options for you. Well, like as far as your major even, right?
yeah.
So that's huge. Like I know a lot of, like I have a friend who's like considered transferring as like a junior into, well, actually I think he totally did. He totally did his transfer. And a lot of people are like kind of reserved about that because you've already committed to something. And
Right. Yeah.
so how did you kind of arrive at that point where you felt comfortable where you were?
Well, like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't know what I want to do. Like long term, like career wise, like no clue. Like I have so many interests. Like I
Yeah.
could not give you any kind of an answer to that. But like, I do know that I'm enjoying like what I'm studying, and like the major that I've chosen to pursue. And I got here just kind of just by trial and error. Like I was like, oh, you know, this sociology class sounds interesting. Like let's see what that's like. And you know, you get exposed to this new field and all these new ideas. And then you kind of just absorb it and you know figure it out from there. And I was, you know, I took that class and I was like, okay, this is really interesting, but like, do I want to keep studying human behavior and sociology and like how they interact? Short answer, no. You know, and like, so it was kind of just by trial and error. And that's what was so great about Santa Barbara City College is I was allowed to have the room for trial and error and like figure out what I enjoy and what I don't. And I don't think a lot of people have that opportunity. And especially I know a lot of people like get so scared about like changing their major as they like, I mean, I don't want to say as they should, but like it can be really hard to change your major, like especially if it's not in a related field. Like my sister, she goes to Cal Poly too. She changed her major and like now she has a whole slew of coursework to do. Like new coursework. So it's going to take her a little bit longer to graduate. So like, yeah, it's definitely, I understand the like fear and like kind of hesitation to like change what you're studying. And that's kind of what is, I think, a little bit like screwed up about college is like, you're expected to come in and be like, you know, most schools, I mean, yeah, you can apply undecided, but like most
That's what I did.
schools, yeah. See, but like, I remember when I was applying out of high school and I wanted to go to Cal Poly and I was like, okay. And I met with Miss Moss and she was like, okay, you want to go to Cal Poly? Like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I don't know. Like, I figure I'll just go in undecided and then like probably switch to engineering, but like just kind of figure it out. And she's like, well, if you want to do engineering, like you need to apply as an engineer. I was like, well, why is that? And they're like, it's really hard to transfer into the engineering school. And then even here at Cal Poly, like you hear the same thing from people where they're like, oh, you want to like transfer into this school? Like it's really hard. And the reality is it's not that hard. Like my sister did it. Like she totally changed schools and like, but everyone kind of tells you it's hard and kind of wants you to fit into this box right away. And they're like, make your decision. You know, what are you going to study? Apply as that. And yeah, it can be difficult and scary to like switch that up, you know?
Yeah, I came in undeclared, which I honestly think was great because it opened my whole. So I go to Chapman University for people who don't know, and I go to Dodge College of Film and Media Arts now. But I came in undeclared, and for people who don't go to Chapman or don't know a lot about it, Dodge, which is like the film school, is physically separated, but also like all the Dodge kids were in the one dorm, and then you go to Dodge, which is like off campus, like a block or two off campus than the normal one.
Really?
And then all the Dodge kids like live different. Like it's all very different. And I was put in a dorm with a bunch of like undeclared kids, and one of my roommates now is a comp sci major, and then the other is like leadership and Spanish, and I don't know what he's doing, but he does a lot of stuff. So it was cool for me as like, and I eventually ended up in film, and they also told me screw them. But I went to the counselor, and he's like, "Yeah, there's no way you can get in." And I'm like, "Watch me, bud." And then I did. But
yeah, if they tell you can't do it, like you probably can.
yeah,
like,
for people
it's just
that
hard
yeah
paperwork. They don't want you to do it.
they well, because it's like it's almost weirdly like the military, right? So like the military, you go to a recruiter, and then they're like, "Oh, like you're gonna do this job," and you're like, "Sure," but if you say no, I'm not gonna do that job, I want to do this job, then they have to put up with you. But if you don't give them a reason to do something different, they're just gonna try and put you into a box, and you're paying them anyway, so they don't give a shit.
Yeah, that's the other thing you got to remember about colleges is like as much as you think that they're like there to help you, ultimately they're a business. You know, that's like I had such a like once you truly understand that the academic system is really just a business, like they serve you. Like that's how a business works. You're the customer. Like if you tell them you're like, I'm changing, and like, yeah, they might have hoops you got to jump through to do it, but like you're paying them thousands of dollars a year. Like tell them to shove it and do it.
Yeah,
like,
true
even
that.
if like that's like a lot of people are like, oh well, like my academic counselor said like I can't, or like blah blah blah. Like it doesn't matter what they say. Like you're giving them money, and if they're truly not going to let you do it, then like you should probably be going somewhere else. But I don't think there's any school that's actually going to like not let you do it. They're just going to make it more difficult. But yeah, you got to keep in mind they're a business. Like you can tell them what's up. Like you're giving them money.
Yeah.
Like, it's like you're ordering at a restaurant. Like if you don't want olives on your pizza, like tell them you don't want olives on your pizza, and that's how they're going to make it because you're paying for the damn pizza.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't really realize the power, including me. So, for example, I am terrible as far as taking advantage, and I think a lot of people are, as far as taking advantage of the assets that you have within the school, right? So, like, I have a counselor, I have a job, I have a career counselor, I have like all of those things. And I don't like personally, I'm not good at seeing those people or talking to those people because I kind of treat college like high school. Is like, okay, I have these classes that are required and I'm going to do those classes and kind of pay attention and get a decent grade and move on. Whereas like realistically, you're paying a shit ton of money to like be present. Like, I don't know, it's different per school, but like $100 a class, like you can kind of think about that. And like and a lot of people, including me, like I'll go on the internet during class occasionally, not going to lie. I think a lot of people do that. But, and you don't really realize like what you're doing until it's over. And I am not even done yet. And I realize like, holy shit, like this is it's kind of clownery. Like,
yeah,
you like go get this degree, which is a piece of paper that's becoming more and more irrelevant, that like after you've proved that you can do something that doesn't even really matter anymore. So the whole system is freaking whack. But
yeah, it also like, yeah, I definitely would harp on what you just said and say like, if you are in college, literally like wring as much of your money's worth from the school as you can. Like see your academic advisor, see your whoever, go to office hours. I'm also terrible at doing that. Like I don't, but like I should, and I know I should. And you know, once things are back in person, the goal is to actually do that because I just hate doing stuff over Zoom. Aside from this
Yeah, fuck
call,
Zoom.
but
Besides this, yeah, this is free. So
but yeah, like you gotta get your money's worth. And yeah, like that's the thing is like I think a lot of people are like scared, like, oh, like they work for the school, like blah blah blah. Like you just have to remember, like they are a business. They will do whatever you say. You're paying thousands of dollars to be there. And yeah, that's the other thing. If you're like, I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna pretend like I'm not, you know, playing games on my phone or going on the internet or whatever during class, but like you're definitely you're just wasting money by doing it. Like you really are. So I try not to do that. but yeah.
true that. So what are your plans after school? Do you know? And like so are you a year away from graduating?
That's a great question. So I came in here. So I had my year at Maryland and I had my 2 years at Santa Barbara City College. So I came in at a senior credit wise. So I have like 150 something units. I don't even know. And I need like 180 to graduate. So I was like, oh, I bet like I'll be out of here in a year or whatever. Well, at least for my major for math, there's like, I have at least 48 units of math that I need to take to graduate. But then each of those math classes has like prerequisites that well, actually, I should be done with my prereqs after this quarter. But so, anyways, long story short, if I can take classes this summer, the classes that I need to, hopefully I'll be graduating end of 2022. If not, we'll just have to see. But
Yeah,
also,
true
I'm
that,
not
dude.
really, the other thing is, so like, this is my 4th year in school. I'm going to be a 5th year when I graduate. Honestly, in all reality, it's likely I'll be a 6th year. Especially like I'm interested in doing the master's program too, but that's a different story. But like the other thing is like I know a lot of people are like worried about, they're like my girlfriend, she's like, oh, I got to graduate in 4 years. And I'm like, why? Like even especially now, given like COVID and like the current job market, I don't know why you would like rush to get out of school. Like, first off, nobody is going to care how long it takes you to get out of school. Like,
Besides financial reasons.
yeah, well, besides financial reasons,
Yeah.
yes. But like, you know, if you're just taking, but like some people, I mean, if you take 4 classes over 3 quarters versus 3 classes over 4 quarters, like it should be the same amount of money. You know what I mean? But yeah, like I know a lot of people are like, feel like rushed to get out of school. But like, yeah, nobody cares like how long it takes you to graduate. Like you shouldn't care. And like, especially now, like, I don't like, given COVID and the current job market, like people graduating this year, like, I mean, one of my housemates had graduated last year and he still hasn't like been able to find work. So it's like really tough. So like, yeah, that's the other thing I'd say is like right now, like don't rush to get out of college. Like take your time, just enjoy it. Like if taking 4 classes, like you're gonna do poor and like receive worse grades, like just take 3 classes and like get those good grades, and like you can get all your coursework done over a longer amount of time. Like nobody's gonna care. And especially right now, like I don't think there's any rush because I think the job market's gonna be tough for months yet after the world opens back up. But that's just, I mean, I'm no expert. That's just my guess. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, for sure. So real quick, we have 5 minutes because I have to go to class, unfortunately. Not to rush, but
No worries.
I'd love to talk about the puzzle and how you solved it.
Oh yeah. So yeah, listen to the first podcast, and heard the
Wait,
the
sorry to
audio.
I'm gonna interrupt. It's really rude, but I'm sorry. Why did you even listen in the first place, honestly? Because like we go back and stuff, but like
Oh,
what was the
I was
reasoning?
just like, I mean, part of the reasoning was I saw the like once I saw there was a puzzle, I was like, oh hell yeah! I was like, I'm definitely gonna solve this thing.
Yeah.
That was
There you are.
I admittedly like that was definitely a big motivation, but also like there's like certain people from Steamboat. Like that's the other thing. Now that I've moved away from Steamboat, I don't go home a lot. Like the people that I actually like, there's so many people like that in high school. I was like interested in what they're doing or like whatever, thought they were cool. Like now I don't care. But like there's some people I think who are like doing really cool things. And like so yeah, I saw you were doing the podcast and I was like, oh, and like obviously you're a cool dude and like we used to hang out and so I was like, oh, I was like I should check this out, especially because you're like one of the few people on Instagram from Steamboat who like I actually see something and I'm like, oh, like let's check this out. And like I actually like look at your stuff because like yeah, there's a lot of people I just don't because I'm like, I don't really care. But like, yeah, I think what you're doing is interesting. And I was like, oh, he's doing a podcast now. I was like, that's very different than what you've been doing because I know you've been doing the photography and videography for a long time. So I was like, huh, this will be interesting. And then I read about the premise and like, you know, how you're not naming people and you're just kind of like having that natural conversation. So I was like, oh, it was like, yeah. So I just love checking out like it's cool to see like how people have like grown and developed from like high school. And so yeah, I was just like, oh, this is a cool idea. Like let's see what it's like. Um,
Well, sick. Thank you, dude. I really
yeah,
appreciate that. That's so
yeah,
nice.
yeah. You're welcome. But yeah, as for solving the puzzle, so yeah, I listened to the first podcast, and then I heard like the audio at the end, obviously, and then you had the hint SS1. So I was like, dude, like when I was first trying to solve it, like I was trying all kinds of wacky stuff. Like I thought there was like some kind of significance of like when the audio started and like when it ended and like the time difference there. And then like I couldn't find any. So I had like all kinds of like random numbers that I had just like taken from like timestamps and like random stuff. And then I was like, okay, like I was like looking up like SS1. I was like, okay, like what does Max do? And I was like, oh, like I know he mountain bikes. So I was like specialized like S1. Like maybe there's some like special like mountain bike. Like so I was like trying to figure out anything for the SS1 with like ski brands, like people, I don't even know. And then I was like, okay, I gotta just look at this audio. And then I was like, okay, this audio obviously has like some kind of message in it. And so the plan was I was going to take the audio and like cut it from the podcast and run it through a MIDI converter and then look at the hexadecimal conversion because that's how a lot of like people hide things in like audio for like puzzles. So I was like, oh, I'll do that. So I like downloaded the podcast and then I was just like, because I was using my iPad because I was like living somewhere else. So I didn't have my computer. And I was like trying to like find an app that would like let me like cut up the audio and like then I could convert it because the whole podcast was too large to convert, blah blah blah. Basically just hit a bunch of dead ends and I like just got busy with school and kind of forgot about it. And then the second podcast came out and you like said that you had like put another hint in it or something. So I was like, oh, so then I was like really into that. Not gonna lie, I didn't listen to the like I listened to the first little bit of the podcast.
Yeah.
And I had like, then I was like, damn it. I was like, I need to know what this hint is.
Yeah.
So I just skipped to the end. I don't remember. Oh, the hint was ISS, right? Yeah. So then I heard that and I was like, oh, International Space Station, duh. And then I was like on Instagram and then I saw you put like, so I started looking up the ISS, like yada yada. And then like a little bit later, I like looked at Instagram and saw you had said like think like ISS communications or something, which is funny because like one of the first things I saw when looking up ISS was like that SSTV, like how they send stuff back to Earth. So I was like kind of already looking into that, and then you said that, and I was like, okay, this has got to be it. So then I like downloaded this like janky program on my girlfriend's computer that just like did not work at all. Cause like then I saw the SS1 and I was like, oh, maybe it's like, because what was it called? Like Scotty, like the
Scotty S1 is
yeah,
the
Scotty.
is the language of the SSTV.
Right. So I was looking at like using the like janky converter I downloaded. Like I saw something that was called like Scotty 1. So I was like, oh, maybe this is it. So then I tried that. It like didn't produce like an image or anything. And then I had found that app like on the App Store, and then I was like, and then you said something that kind of was like, yeah, you need to use that app. Because I was like DMing you, trying to like, I was like asking you questions.
I gave you a couple hints.
Yeah,
I just wanted someone to solve it. Honestly, I was
so
just
then
psyched. So I gave you one hint.
yeah, and it was like it was because I was like, damn, I found this app on the iPhone, but like I couldn't get my payment method to work or something. And then I finally got the app and I like ran the audio through it, and then it produced that image. And then so the image, I guess, because I bet a lot of people haven't solved it.
Yeah,
it's like
one other kid. So one other kid solved it, and I gave him hints, and then he actually solved it before you, but I gave him more hints than you. And so I technically you solved it because I like literally I told him, I said look up SSTV, which was like the whole thing.
Yeah.
But his name is Parker Jones. Shout out Parker Jones. He's really nice. I talked to him, and yeah, he solved it. So he's the only other person that solved it.
Yeah. Well, anyways, yeah. So when the image gets converted, there was like numbers and then like letters. So it was like 6E, 6F, 6 blah blah blah. And so I just, because I code, I was like, oh, this is like hexadecimal. And then at the very end of the image, it was like a bunch of lines of like numbers and like letters. And then at the very end, there's like a hexagon. So I was like, oh, this is definitely hexadecimal. But the image actually, like, I could not get it to print out like very clearly. Like, I think there was like audio like disturbance or something, like, and I just couldn't get a clear image. And so like some of the letters, I couldn't tell exactly what they were. So there's a little bit of like trial and error of just like typing stuff into like a hexadecimal converter on the internet. And then some of the letters still were just like messed up at the end, but then it said like, what did it say? Like, congratulations, like text this number and say the eagle has landed. and then I figured out what was funny is it was like, I had your entire phone number except for like the 0 in 970 was like something else because I messed up like typing it in, or like because I couldn't read what it was. But I was like, this is Max's phone number, like it's obviously 970. And then I realized that was a 0, and then that gave me, is there another 0 in your phone number, or is that the only one?
No, that's the only one.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, anyways, then I texted you the eagle has landed.
And then you got it.
And I got it.
Psyched. Well, yeah, I was psyched that you solved it. So yeah, good stuff. We're gonna make another one. We want to make it a little more complicated because I don't have endless money. So
yeah.
But we're gonna put that out pretty soon, hopefully, for the people listening. I think the plan was today, but unfortunately, I have class and other things to do.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. But so yeah, we're gonna get that out soon. And dude, just thanks so much for talking, and I'm psyched that we got to talk about the college experience and stuff like that and your perspective on that.
Yeah, I feel like I don't have yeah, I guess
I think it's important
about, but yeah, hopefully, if you're in college or going to college soon or something, like hopefully there's some kind of important takeaway, because yeah, I really feel like I've done it all college wise. And I feel like, I mean, I don't have my whole life figured out, but I kind of feel like I have college figured out at least.
True that.
So,
there you go, bro. All right. Well, thanks again for talking. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, man. Have a good night.
Take care.
I'll see you later. Bye.
Later.
Yo, what up? Hope you guys like this podcast with River Fox Welch, talking about concussions and school and dealing with going to college and I mean all that stuff. It's totally helpful for me personally too, because a lot of the time I'm curious about what I'm doing in school and if it's worth it still, and it's good to talk through it with someone and like really think about what you're doing. And like River said, he's been through the ringer in these situations, so he's a good guy to talk to it. talk to about it. I bet if you hit him up, you could hit me up and I can give you his Instagram if you want to talk to him about his experiences in different places and stuff like that. So I think he'd totally be down to help anybody out. So yeah, I hope you guys learned something. Hope you have a great day. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you on Thursday.